Good evening. Good evening. Hey, listen, guys. Happy Monday. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another great episode of Uncommon Men Global. Hey, guys, we're excited, man. This is episode 22, and we're fired up and excited tonight. Listen, don't forget all of our family watching this broadcast on YouTube. Don't forget to like the broadcast, share, subscribe. If you're watching on any of our social media outlets, do the same thing, man. Leave comments tonight. Be a part of the broadcast. Share the broadcast. And information is power. Applied information is transformational. And I'll tell you something. We're going to get started. We're going to get right to it. Uncommon Men, we are here. Could not even take another step without introducing a gentleman I have a tremendous amount of respect for, my partner. And then really, guys, someone I think you all grown to love and respect. He's an icon in the relationship and network marketing industry on a global level, a top visionary, and a gentleman responsible for this uncommon movement. So let me bring on Mr. Dan Putnam to the forefront. Dan, how you doing this evening?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, Clavon. Thanks so much. Just so many great things going on. I really haven't been this excited at any time in my life that I can remember. I just am so into what we have going on and really out to help as many people as we possibly can. So
yeah.
I'm excited, man.
Yeah, you've been doing it, man, all over the world. You know what I mean? And so very admirable. And you know, I just got a feeling that we're going to really just jump right into it. We got a great guest tonight, and I really want to hear a lot from him and from you, man. I just want to kind of sit back and maybe try to steer the ship a little bit. But I think everybody's hungry for some content. And so I want to bring on Kevin Tarmer to the forefront. Kevin, how you doing this evening, brother?
Hey, doing great, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, Kevin. I'll tell you something. It's a pleasure to have you on, and I just want to kind of just jump right into it if I can. You know, Kevin, you know, this broadcast is really about uncommon men that we find all over the country, all over the world that have succeeded on their own terms, right? And we know success leaves clues, and our whole point is to, you know, kind of interview with you and have you share some of the keys to your success and have that as a roadmap for those who will watch this broadcast now and in the future. But just to get started, Kevin, would you mind giving us some insight on your background? You know, who is Kevin? You know, where did you grow up? You know, siblings, a little bit about your parents, you know, what sparked maybe your entrepreneurial exploits, man. Just take us back to the beginning, trials and tribulations, a little bit about Kevin.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys, first of all, you know, for inviting me here. I really appreciate that. I'm originally from Peru. I grew up there, you know, until I was about 15 years old. And then, you know, we moved over here to the States and just kind of started life here, right? My dad stayed back there. My mom came here. You know, he didn't like it when he came here because it was winter time. So a lot of cold compared to Peru. He didn't like the snow, believe it or not. And he just went back. So anyways, fast forward. About 7 years ago, I became a police officer actually in the city of West Jordan, just south of Salt Lake, and loved the work. You know, really enjoyed it. But it was about the time I met my now wife, and you know, I just started thinking more about the future and kids and family and all of that, right? So, you know, I thought about that, and I said, you know, I love this job, but you know, it is dangerous. That's just the nature of it, right? Like it can get dangerous. Especially these days with politics and all that. So anyways, that's when I started looking into different business models and opportunities and, you know, and careers. And that's when I chose real estate. So it's been about 6 years now that I've been doing this, the real estate industry for full time, and enjoyed every bit of it. You know, I've been able to help great people. Dan can attest to that as well. And yeah, just that kind of gives you a little bit of my background, I guess.
A couple of things, Kevin, and just because I know you a little bit more, so people can get a little bit more information. I know that you've been into sports. I know you and your brothers play soccer a lot, or football, I guess, depending on what part of the country you're in. I also know that you've done a bit of mixed martial arts, all the way to the taking it to the level of actually getting in a cage with
Yeah.
another male with intent of doing at least enough harm to get you to quit. Um, uh, Tell us a little bit about that, Kevin. What is it like to get in the cage with somebody else that is literally trying to make you give up?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I train in jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and kickboxing mainly,
Wow.
just so I can defend myself, while standing up and also on the floor. And, when I first got in the cage, I'll be honest with you, the most nerve-wracking thing was actually walking up to it.
Yeah,
It wasn't even like being in the ring against the guy, because you could trust on your own abilities and what you train for, right? That's why you train. But the actual, for me at least, the actual nerve-wracking thing was the walking up to it, like from the actual locker room all the way to the stage or to the ring, and people yelling and cheering you on and things like that. That was the most difficult part for me, believe it or not. The rest, I mean, once I was in the ring, man, it was a whole different game.
just a little bit more reaction there, and the anticipation is hard to deal with a little bit. I've been a big fan of that sport, and um, I've never been in the ring. I think maybe if I was 20 years younger and grew up in a different time, I did enjoy like wrestling and uh, grade school, junior high, even part on our college I went to didn't have a actual wrestling team, but they had a club, and so I did some with that and those
Nice.
types of things. So, um, but one of the things that I think is interesting is just how important it is to be able to control your emotions,
Hmm.
because every guy, I guarantee you this, every single person that you see on TV, from the UFC to Bellator to PFL to anything, even the local circuits, are in great shape. But then you'll see some of them after one round looking like they're dead.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happens in sports is they call it that adrenaline dump. You know what I mean? You have all this adrenaline when you're going into the stage. You're all hyped up and you've trained for it, but you can't reproduce that in the gym. Like you can go like 5 rounds, 10 rounds, 15 rounds in the gym and practice, and then 2 minutes in the actual fight in the ring with the crowd, you feel more tired than 30 minutes in practice. And that's just being able to control those emotions and things like that. I also think that that has a little bit to do with business in itself, being able to control your emotions and not get too worried, especially when you're working in an environment commissions based, when if you don't sell anything, you don't eat.
Right.
So
Yeah.
playing soccer, doing the MMA, all the way to fighting in the cage. I know there's some other things that you do right now. How do you think that helps in business, or does it help at all in business? From being, do you feel like you're a competitive person?
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I think, going back to that question you just posed right now. So when I was in the police training, I had this teacher, kind of mentor guy, in the range. You do the study and then you also do the range thing, where you shoot and all that. And he would say, the more you practice this, the better you perform in real life. But that doesn't mean that you're gonna do what you're doing here. In fact, you prepare so that you can do somewhat close to what you're doing here. So what he meant was, let's say, I shot 9 out of 10 on the range. In a real life situation under pressure, you probably do like 5 out of 10, right? And the same principle translates to MMA, to soccer, to any sport you want to call, and even to business, like you mentioned. So I think the more you train, in whatever it is that you're dedicating yourself to, whether it's business, sports, whatever, the more you train and you perfection or you master your craft, the better you perform in that real life situation where you're, up against somebody in the cage, or when you're dealing, with a negotiation with a seller or a buyer, or, or anything like that in business as well. So I think that's a principle that we can all learn from.
Awesome.
Yeah, that reminds me of something. I've also been a big American football fan, all the way from playing in Little League through high school and things like that. And I happen to have a couple of my friends that played for the University of Utah when they probably literally had the best team in the nation. They didn't have the playoffs like they do now. And they were ranked number 2. They went to, I don't remember, maybe the Sugar Bowl, played against Alabama. And Alabama, just like they are now, is a powerhouse then. And everybody was thinking that Alabama is just going to walk over Utah. Yeah. And Utah beat Alabama with ease. And that's when Urban Meyer was the coach, one of the best teams Utah's ever had. And then Urban Meyer went on to Florida and won several national championships in Ohio State, stuff like that. And I asked them, and I said, so was he really that good of a coach? I mean, did it really make that big of a difference? And they said a little bit what you said. And they said, you know what? The reason we did so good is there was never one thing that we were surprised by. There's never one thing that we wasn't prepared for. Every single thing that happened in the game, we already expected it and was fully prepared for it. And that's what a good coach does. And that's just like what you were saying with your mentor, that, you know, being prepared for all these situations. And that happens through practice. Even though you can't recreate that exact same scenario of, okay, this is really happening. Like, you can sit there and do all the drills and stuff in soccer, but the other team isn't going to just let you do the drill. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or like in wrestling, we had practice all the time, but when we were drilling, the person we was going against was pretty much letting us put them in the move. Not like just like rolling over and letting us do it, but they are probably putting like 20% effort, not 100% effort to keep us from doing it. But right. Drilling it and drilling it and drilling it and drilling it does prepare you much better for game time than never drilling it at all. And the only reason I ask that is we haven't seen like 100% of the interviews that we've done that the people were into sports and were into everything. I do think that probably so far 100% of the people have been competitive. And so I think it's, you know, kind of a trade. And really what our goal here is, like what Clavon said, is we want to prove to people that success is not by accident.
Right.
Meaning, and as Clavon said, success does leave clues. And we've seen every single person that we've interviewed doing somewhat similar things in you know, how they think and what they do. There's a lot of commonalities. And I do believe, Kevin, like if we did the opposite podcast and we only interviewed unsuccessful people, you'd see the same types of commonalities in them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so we're really just kind of looking for this. And the reason that we have this Uncommon Men is, if you think about it, I was talking about this just today, and I want to get your thoughts on it, and maybe your thoughts too, Clavon. People have asked, like, well, why are you doing like a movement for men? As a man, it's a completely different world that we live in. If you think about it, if there's approximately 8 billion people in the world, and let's just say it's close to 50-50, so 3 to 4 billion men, 3 to 4 billion women, here's what I can guarantee you. There's not billions of women working their butts off, everything that they possibly can do to go find a guy that they can provide for. So exactly. Just inherently, men have a completely different responsibility. I'm not saying that women don't work hard, that it's anything different, but they don't have that same pressure, that responsibility of like being like, man, I need to do everything that I possibly can do so that I can go find that perfect woman to take care of. Men don't have that same thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And so what we're trying to do is give every man the potential or all the information that he needs so that he can be that provider, be that great boyfriend, husband, son, dad, you know, all of those different types of things, and realize how powerful they are. And there's really 5 key areas that we focus on that we feel are some of the most important aspects of life. And so that's kind of what we're going to, move the discussion towards. Unless, Clavon, is there anything else that you have any questions on Kevin's background, the transition from going from Peru at 15? So again, that's an interesting age.
That's amazing.
So you're just going into high school. Did you speak English at the time when you came?
No, so basically we arrived, kind of threw me and my brother straight to high school, and it was just learn as you go. Honestly, like that was it. We didn't know any English. We had no intention to learn English back in Peru because we didn't know we were gonna be here. Thankfully, we came here, and we were able to take advantage of opportunities. But yeah, it was just learn as you go. So
how was that going to school? And
was tough.
Was you able to find teachers that it's different? Like right now, even in Utah, they have schools that teach like half the day in Spanish, half the day in English. When I grew up, that wasn't an option. There is I guarantee you, if you went to my high school, the only teachers that spoke Spanish are probably the Spanish teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that work? I mean, how do you do your math homework and your English homework?
Yeah.
You don't even speak English, and the teacher doesn't speak Spanish. Did they have teachers here that spoke Spanish? Was you able to go to a school that had Spanish speaking options?
No.
Or?
I went to Davis High, which is in Caseville, and then I went to Viewmont High School. But they had like their Spanish teachers just for the Spanish course, right? Like people
Right.
were teaching Spanish, but no, like if you had any other classes, science, anything, it was in English. And so easily, my favorite subject became math because the numbers are the same in English and Spanish. And so, I like math back then, right? But then history and science and all that, it was all in English. So I just kind of had to learn as I went. I would take notes, I would listen to how people spoke, and if I wanted to express myself, I would have to think about it twice. I would have to write it down and then think about it again and then do it again. And so, yeah, it was a process, it was a challenge. But, I think maybe within about a year, a little bit more than a year, perhaps, I got it down and I could communicate.
So how are your grades that first quarter, that first 2 quarters of high school? Was you able to still get good enough grades, or did the teachers work with you a little bit? I think that I couldn't imagine doing that. I think I could survive and adapt, but man, I have trouble. I've gone to Spanish speaking countries for the last 20 years. And there's still some times, and I know a lot of the basic words, but there's still some times that I get outside of the touristy areas and I'm like, man, it's difficult to even place an order. And I know like the basic words,
Yeah.
or to get directions. I couldn't imagine going to like history class.
Oh yeah.
And I wouldn't even know what to take a note because I literally wouldn't understand more than like 10 words that they said.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I don't remember my grades the first year. It's been so long, but I do remember that I excel in math. And I think that was the reason why, because, we cannot understand numbers, it's just the same numbers, but all the other ones, man, I don't even want to venture to guess what I got on the other ones. Maybe not that great,
But
I develop character, though. Would you say that Kevin helped really develop character? Like perseverance. If you could go through that, you could probably go through anything. Just character building. At that young age, and I see so many great stories of people who do go through adversities, like what you're sharing. They just wind up being amazing leaders because they just go through that boot camp at such an early age. And Dan, I would like to ask Kevin a question based on the pillars of becoming uncommon, because I think if we go through what we define as uncommon, as Dan mentioned, those 5 pillars, we'll learn so much about you. And when you talk about the MAA fighting and all the training and what it took, even now to be an officer, I know the conditioning, the physical fitness training, a big part, Kevin, of being uncommon for us is a commitment to health and fitness, knowing that is the most important thing, you know, outside of your spirituality, your relationship with God, whatever that might mean to any individual. I mean, health, fitness, health, and health is wealth, right? And so I wanted to just ask you, you know, what is your physical fitness regimen as you go back to when you were fighting and training up to being an officer, even today? You know, what do you do to stay in shape? You know, how's your diet? What is your routine as it comes to health and fitness?
Yeah, no, amazing question. I think kind of what you said, health is well, without it, we could have all the money in the world, but we couldn't really enjoy it, right? So something that I've learned throughout the years is that, what you do first thing in the morning kind of sets the tone for the whole day. And so something that I started doing maybe, I want to say either 6 months to maybe 9 months ago is, I don't know if it's a full intermittent fasting, but I do not eat breakfast in the traditional way, that people eat breakfast, so like I wake up and I don't eat till like about 12. So my first meal of the day is at noon, that would be considered lunch, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I found that kind of gives me a lot of discipline in the morning to like kind of push through that and then get other things done and everything. And then once I eat that, it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of sets a pace for my whole day. I also, I need to get back in shape on this, but, my goal is to be at the gym at 6 a.m. and just kind of work out for an hour, from Monday through Saturday. I say probably right now I'm doing it 3 times a week. I can get better on that. But I would say those 2 things are the main things. I don't have a specific diet that I follow, to be honest with you. But I will say I do watch what I eat, and I try to eat clean and, have my cheat days here and there. But mainly, I don't have a specific diet, but I do have a specific schedule, which is I don't eat till about noon.
That's pretty interesting.
Awesome. And you still play soccer quite a bit. I see that when you guys post on social media, winning the indoor championships and things like that.
Yeah.
Are you still? When's that season start up? I know it kind of goes almost all year here. Are you guys playing now?
Yeah, it started up again about 2 months ago. In fact, and it's every Saturday. So this Saturday, this week, we're playing the, I guess you would call it elimination games. So like we got to the point that, we passed the bracket, and now if you lose, you're done. You're out of the tournament. So if we win that game, then next Saturday we play the semifinal and the final. So we'll see if we get to that. Hopefully, yeah.
All right. Well, you guys seem to most years. How many years have you guys won the championship?
Outside, we won it quite a few times actually. Because there's indoor and then there's outdoor.
Okay.
So the big tournaments, when you play like they call them relámpagos, which is like a thunder, right? And it's a 1-day thing. You start at 8 a.m. and you finish at like 9 p.m. You play like 7 games in 1 day, which is crazy. But anyways, we won those quite a few times actually, at least 3 times, And then the indoor ones we won a few times here and there.
One other thing I know that you do, and I just thought it was an interesting thing to bring up. I know you've been playing a lot of pool lately.
Oh yeah.
Even though that doesn't do a whole lot of physical, but mental definitely. I think it help with the health and fitness. Isn't just physical; it's also keeping that brain as sharp as you can. What drew you to pool of all things? Is that something that you grew up playing, or?
Yeah, so in Peru it's very popular. It's almost in every neighborhood. You go and play and shoot for fun and sometimes gamble. Here, when I came to the States, I kind of stopped playing, and then I picked it up again about 3-4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And so, once I started shooting again, I realized, this game is actually very, very interesting. It's like chess.
Yeah.
But, in my opinion, a little bit more difficult just because, you not only have to think about strategy and the next shot and 3 shots ahead, but you also have to have the skill to be able to stroke it and to be able to hold it and to be able to have the right position and, and think ahead, I guess. And so it's a game that challenges you a lot, like mentally, I would say. And then, it keeps you sharp, I would say. That's part of the reason why I think it just keeps you. It's never the same table. There's always something different that you need to do in order to win that game.
On a side note, we were getting I got a house in Texas not too long ago. I think I told you about it. Maybe sent you some pictures. The guy that we got to do the pool for all the maintenance and stuff like that, and it works out kind of perfect because he's a pool guy, but he also sets up and runs the bigger pool tournaments in the area.
Oh,
Like
look at
playing
that.
pool. So he's a pool guy during the day, and then they play pool at night. So it's perfect. So I was trying to set up some games for you whenever you want to go make a trip down to Houston and hang out for a little while and look at the real estate market there. I also wanted to bring this up, Clavon, just so that people know why we have people like Kevin on this. I met Kevin through some just acquaintances, and he was over at my office one time, and he was talking about that he was doing real estate, and we were just getting a lease done on a building across the street because we needed some more warehouse space, and we were in the process of building some warehouse out in Ogden, but it was going to take some while. And then I was meeting with the guy and this other realtor, and there was a building right up the street, little kind of kitty corner to our office. And it's kind of an interesting building because it has like basketball courts, has 2 or 3 pool tables, ping pong tables, a theater, kind of just for entertaining. And I thought, man, that'd be kind of cool for business to have our own event center. And plus just to have your own stuff. If I want to go play basketball, or if I want to go play pool or darts, or it has foosball, poker tables, kind of everything. And I'd always thought that'd be a cool building to own, and it wasn't for sale. And so I just mentioned that to Kevin, just kind of in just a conversation. And I think it was 2 or 3 days later, he called me back and said, hey, I found out who owned that building. I gave him a call and told him that I might have somebody that would be interested in a cash offer if he is interested in selling. And he's open to talking to you. You want to set up a meeting with him? And so then we set up a meeting and ended up how long after our first conversation? It's probably no more than like a month or so.
No more than 3 weeks, I think, actually. It was
maybe like 3 weeks. I just mentioned it in passing. And like 3 weeks later, I close on the building. And then we're just talking about the building next door. He said, yeah, he also owns this building and this other stuff. And it already has tenants. If you're interested in, you had said you're interested in maybe some commercial buildings as investments. And so I said, yeah, see if he'll sell that. And then literally like a week later, we bought that building also. And so, but it's just been that type of thing that there's not a lot of times that you'll have a realtor that literally will go and call the person, find out who owns it to begin with, and then call them on something that's not even for sale to see if they're interested in selling, and then say, hey, well, he sold this one. Maybe he's interested in selling these others also. Do you want me to ask? And then, so bought a couple buildings that way through Kevin. And then I had one that I wanted to sell, and I had owned it for less than a year. And I thought that I bought it wrong to begin with. And so I was hoping to like just break even or make anything on it. I didn't think I'd break even. I thought I'd probably lose money on it. And in probably, I don't know, less than a week, he called me back and said, hey, I have somebody that, we could maybe sell it pre-market before we even list it. Would you be interested in taking, this amount? We could maybe get more if we list it, but who knows? And so he sold that, like what, Kevin, 3 days, 4 days, the place in Park City.
Oh, yeah. Park City. Yeah. We sold it fairly fast too. Good price as well.
Yeah. More than I owned it for less than a year and sold it for like almost 80,000 more than I paid for it. And I literally thought that I might lose money. I probably would have taken what I paid for it, or maybe even a little bit less. So
that's amazing.
So that was good. I do need to talk to you though, because I have a couple other places that I need to that I want to sell. One in Cedar City and a couple other things, but that's off the subject. I just wanted to let people know that there's a lot of realtors out there, but a lot of times it's just like these little things that make the difference in in business and things like that. And I can tell you that those things don't go unnoticed. And it's one of the reasons that I think that, you succeed in real estate and everything that you do, not just real estate. It's just the type of person that you are. And so
that leads us into our next topic. And Kevin, that's really admirable. And Dan just kind of threw the alley oop, because I really am curious, if you don't mind me asking you, what is it that led you into the real estate space, being a realtor? And I ask because the second pillar of the UnCommon movement happens to be financial literacy. So we start with health and wellness being top priority. Then we think about success. We think about financial literacy, specifically residual income as it pertains to, linear income. And was it financial literacy? Was it a love for the idea of residual income that drew you into real estate? Or did you fall in love with real estate for other reasons and then get the benefit of residual income? How does that play in your life, financial literacy and your love for real estate, and specifically residual income?
Yeah, great question. First of all, thanks, Dan, for mentioning that experience, that we had together. That was great. I remember those days. And going to your question, Clavin. So when I transitioned into, when I was thinking more about the future, when I was a police officer and met my now wife, I was looking at different types of businesses and industries that I could go into. And so, there were many, right? There was insurance, there was network marketing, there was real estate, there was business, there was financial, services, just a lot of them. And I guess something that I was thinking about is, what do people need all the time, and that kind of clicked with me when I said, well, someone's always going to need a roof to live in, right? Like whether you're going to buy something or rent something. So, and I started doing more research and diving deeper into that and realized that real estate was that for me, was something that I could help people provide, not only a place for them to live in, but also a way to create wealth. Because buying real estate is not just about a place to live in, because if it was, everybody would be renting. Real estate can actually create wealth. And if you do it the right way, then that's kind of what happens, right? Like it just follows suit. But yeah, I hope that kind of answers that question.
Absolutely. Dan, one thing I admire about your some of your business that you've shared with me and some others is, you've tapped into the global real estate game. And, Dan, did you feel the same way? Is that why you got into real estate, Dan, for the residual income, or was it for, I guess the future business part of it?
Yeah, for me personally, everything that I focus on has to do with residual income. Like what we discussed, like health and fitness, your health is your kind of your true wealth, because everything else is all made up. You know what I mean? Money, time, that's all made up stuff that we've agreed to. Governments, those are all made up. So somebody made up the dollar and said that it's worth this, and then we all agreed to it. Somebody made up a clock and a calendar, and then we all agreed to it. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but health is our wealth that we're in control of. Everything else is made up. But what I look at is with all this made up stuff, one thing that is very valuable for us is our time. Does that make sense? I mean, we all have, even though time is made up, the clock and the seconds and the hours and the days and the months, that's all made up stuff. We don't know how much time we have. We can't buy more time. So it's extremely valuable. And so when I'm looking at finances, I'm looking at things that give me control of my time more so than just the amount of money that I make. Like there's doctors, lawyers, things like that make a bunch of money, but they also work 120 hours, or probably not that, but 70, 80 hours, 60 hours per week. Very stressful. The beeper goes off. Here's a perfect example. I like to play golf. I play in a lot of golf tournaments all over the country, stuff like that. I have never once had a beeper go off in let's say a golf tournament in Las Vegas that we're down there for the entire weekend and had to leave. I've played several times with some doctors and dentists and stuff like that all of a sudden, because of an emergency, literally had to leave the golf course that second and get back to Salt Lake City from Las Vegas for an emergency surgery. Somebody just got in a car accident. Somebody just, literally this was an occasion, attempted suicide with a gun, blew his entire jaw off, and he had to get up there to try and connect it back together. That's never happened because I have income that doesn't depend on my time actually doing it. So when I go do something, when I make that decision, I know that I still have the ability to get paid. And one of the things that I know about real estate is they're not making any more of it. I guess they kind of are a little bit. I've seen some in some parts of the world, they're like making islands out of the ocean and adding enough dirt and stuff like that to create some more land. But typically you can almost never go, if you have the ability to hold on to it long enough, you're almost never going to go wrong with real estate. And so it's something that I've been interested in. I still don't go all in because as I've got more and more properties, it's kind of a headache too with all of the insurance and all the utilities of every place and all the taxes of every place and all of these things. So it takes a bit to manage it all. But again, if it was super easy, then there wouldn't really be opportunity. So I've got into real estate because for literally like 30 plus years, I just invested in myself, everything. Like if I had an idea, I just started a business, one of my own businesses. And that's pretty much what I did. And I was just like, man, I've done well with the businesses, but I'm not diversified at all. And so I started thinking, I want to get a little bit more diversified. But my first goal, all the way back from when I graduated from college in 1996, was I wanted to get in the situation that I only lived off of money that my money made, not living off of any money that I make. So in order to do that, you have to get in that mindset that you start investing the money that you make. Doesn't necessarily have to be, it can be in yourself, like investing money in yourself and your knowledge, starting a business, those types of things. But invest enough money and get that money making money so that now everything that you're buying and your entire lifestyle is off of money that your money's making. And if somebody commits to that and they do it, it's going to be very difficult to go broke. Still possible if it's all invested in the stock market, if it's all invested in real estate and you're leveraged all the way out. So I've also not believed, I do believe in it, but I haven't done anything with a lot of leverage. Like my investing in real estate has all been 100% cash deals. Even like the 40 some apartments that we're building in Columbia and stuff like that. I haven't done any leverage on there, even though I could maybe leverage 10 times the amount of properties, make more money. But then you also have the issue if the real estate market makes a big turn that you can, be in a world of hurt and trying to figure it out. But if you own everything, you just might have to wait on it a little while, but you don't have everything, all the banks asking for their money and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say real estate is something fairly new to me, but it's just what Kevin said. You can create wealth with ownership of real estate. And if you couldn't create, and it's that same thing, look at the people that Kevin went through COVID and stuff like that, when prices were just going crazy. How many houses in Utah were selling sight unseen, no appraisal needed, cash orders from people moving from California? You saw that, I'm sure, Kevin, right?
You cut out for a minute. You gotta repeat that question, my friend.
Oh, so what I was saying is, like during COVID, when the house prices were going crazy, And people would literally like list their house at a price, and then it would sell sometimes 50, 60, 70, $80,000 more. And there are people buying those houses sight unseen with no inspection needed, no appraisal needed, because it was cash offers. A lot of them coming from states like California. So what I'm getting at is, how are they able to do that? Because they bought the house in California when it was maybe 300,000. Now that same house, let's say 30, 40 years later, is worth 2 million. They sell the house for 2 million, and then they go buy a house in Utah for 600,000. That doesn't happen if you rent.
Yeah, I'm losing you a little bit, my friend. So as the last question, you kind of cut out through that last.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I heard it both times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize. I don't know if it might be my connection or what.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's not even anything that you really need to answer, Kevin. I was just making the point when you talked about it, the reason why everybody doesn't rent, the benefit of owning. And I was just using the example of all the people that have moved from California to Utah, paid cash for their houses because they bought a house in California when it was, let's say, 300,000. Now that same house is worth 2 million. They sell it for 2 million, and then they can easily buy a house in Utah for 600,000 or 700,000 cash.
Oh yeah, exactly right. Yeah, appreciation is a big deal in real estate.
They never could have done that if they was renting.
Exactly.
That was the only point I was making with owning something.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, Kevin, can you hear me, partner?
I can now. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, let's keep the train going, because as I think you would agree, with Dan, the UnCommon movement, we've created this alliance. Many of us as men around the world, we really are proud of this foundation. These 5 pillars that govern our conversation, our roadmap, so to speak. So, number 3 is, I think, just as important as number 1 and number 2. And it's just this concept of personal growth and development. You talked about, walking to the ring is where the butterflies came. But once you got in there, you had developed your skill set. You had developed your mind so strong that it was like a walk in the park. That wasn't where the nerves came from. So I know you're committed to development, but personal growth and development, where are you with that? Kevin, what does that mean to you? What books are you reading? What mentors do you kind of lean on? Who do you attribute to helping develop you to be the man that you are today? What does personal growth mean and develop mean to you as it pertains to when you were in combat sports, as an athlete out there on the football field, being a police officer, and just whatever it is that you got going on for your future in real estate? Yeah, personal growth and development.
Yeah, so I think personal growth and development for me is kind of like a trajectory instead of like a finish line. Right. So I look at it like real estate, long term. It's a long term thing. And I think we all read many books, different books. The 2 that stick out to me the most: Think and Grow Rich, and then The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. I kind of, that kind of sets that foundation for me as far as personal growth and development. One principle that I like to live by is seek to understand first before being understood, right? Like a lot of times we try to reply, based on what we feel we need to get across, but rarely do we want to understand the other side first before actually, engaging in that conversation. So I would definitely recommend those 2 books to anybody that's starting, or even if you're already at a high level of personal growth. Those books honestly never get old to me. Like I always go back to the basics, and when you master the basics and you're, let's say, at a higher level on the personal growth and development, then it really comes down to the basics, like how well you do the basics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dan, I know, Dan, you're real serious on personal growth and development. So I'd love to kind of hear, where you are right now, Dan. Dan, do you have any mentors? I'm going to ask you, that you're actually following right now.
I have a lot, but my biggest thing is more action based. Like if I hear something, I want to put it into practice, because I've seen so often, like a lot of people read a bunch of books, know a bunch of theories, know a bunch of concepts, but it doesn't do you any good to read all these books if you're not actually putting them into practice. And so I'm a little bit more like Kevin. I don't read a ton of books. I kind of stick to the basics. I do follow some people just to kind of see, what they're doing. I follow a lot of the men that are getting attraction right now, like the Jordan Peterson, David Goggins. I like the Andrew Facellas, Andy Elliott. I don't agree with everything that all these guys say, but I do follow what they're doing. I try and study success. So anybody who starts a business and I start to see it everywhere, I do go and do just a little bit of research and see, where do these guys come from? What did they do? Like if I see a business that all of a sudden, like 5 years later, has a $1 billion, $2-3 billion evaluation, then I look up and see who owns this business, and then how did they start it? And I'll go to their social media and see, what are these guys doing? And so I have been one that really studies success, looking for those clues. But I think one of the things that I've really focused on is implementing them and seeing how they work for me. And so I'm still kind of that way. I'll see somebody, like there's a project I'm working on right now. I'm not going to get into detail, but it's because I started to see something all the time. And I went and saw that this thing's about 10 years old, has over a $3 billion evaluation, and two friends, one was like 22, the other was 24, started the business with less than $20,000. 10 years later, it's worth over $3 billion. And so I start to look at that and I'm like, man, then I start to look a little bit further at their competitors and saying, well, these guys started 6 years ago and it's worth $1 billion. And these guys started and it's worth 700 million. And then I think, well, man, if it's worked for them, I think I could do it. Why don't I start something new and see if I can get it to 500 million, $1 billion, 5 billion, 10 billion. And so I look at those things, and I have always believed that success, it is a process. There's luck to it, but it's not just luck.
Right.
It's like having the perseverance, trying things, adapting, believing in yourself. Those are all the things that I look at as far as personal development. So I truly do study success, but I'm not like one that reads every new book that comes out. If everybody's talking about a book, I'll usually get it on Audible. I fly a lot, drive a lot. So I listen to books, but just listening to it, you're not going to get the same. You're not going to understand everything as much as if you're like reading it, taking notes and those. But I do try and listen to like a chapter, and if something hits me, even if it's middle of it, I will stop it, put it down in my notes, and then start to implement it. And so those are things that I do, but I do 100% believe in personal development, but only if you're taking action. I don't believe in just like reading a whole bunch of personal development books and becoming super knowledgeable about it and then doing nothing with it. That, unless your goal is just to learn as much as you possibly can, but that hasn't been my goal. I've always been more like, hey, Kevin's super successful in real estate and different things, pretty much everything he puts his mind to. I'd much rather just be like, man, I want to do real estate. Tell me what I need to do. and then just do it from somebody that's like successful. I'd rather learn from that than to like go read a whole bunch of books and things like that. So I've more looked for hands-on mentors, and then just straight up like Google searching, looking at different people's social media, trying to see, what did these guys do? Why did it work? Is it something that maybe was luck? Is it something that really isn't duplicatable because of the influence that they already had and the relationships that they already had built? Some of those things are like, you can't duplicate.
Right.
So I try and look at it as like, is this a business that can be duplicated? Or did these guys become so successful because of who their uncle was or who their wife's dad was? Or do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Sometimes they're successful because they married into the right family, or they have an uncle or a cousin or something like that. And other times they just grassrooted this thing, and you could probably have somewhat similar success if you did the same things that they did.
I think that's so powerful, Dan. I think that if everybody catches that, when you're looking for a mentor, if you're going to duplicate that mentor, is their journey practical? Is it literally duplicatable, or they handed something that now you're idolizing, but that road is not even practical to follow? That's really insightful, Dan. And with that being said, you have an amazing journey, Kevin. I think when I think about accountability, the fourth pillar of the UnCommon movement, Kevin, I think about as an athlete, what does accountability mean to you when you're on that football field with your teammates? When I think about real estate, if you're whether you're an agent or a broker, do you have a team that's accountable to you, or is there a team that holds you accountable? And I surely can imagine. I have a great friend that's an officer of the law. He's a retired police officer, and I know your life could be on the line. Accountability. Your brother's got to have your back, and I can imagine how far that goes in that career. But can you talk to us what accountability means to you, from athletics to business and money to your career? It's very important to us. What does accountability mean to you?
Yeah. So I would say accountability. Well, in my industry, right? Like there are teams and there are different models of how you run your business. Personally, I kind of do. I'm an independent agent, so I kind of do my own thing. As far as the business part of it, I would say that I've learned the discipline to kind of be accountable to myself. I have a schedule that I follow. I have a vision board. I have things that kind of are in place for me to measure myself up against. I guess you could put it that way. But in general, I think accountability is key to success, because you could say to yourself in your mind, oh yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. Okay, oh, I may do it later today. But if you don't have somebody or something to hold you accountable, for me it's not somebody, for me it's something, and that is my schedule and my vision board. That's what holds me accountable every day. I think you're toast if you don't have that, because procrastination becomes now your pattern instead of accountability, and you don't want that, because then you won't hit your goals if you procrastinate.
So Kevin, your accountability is self-fueled through a vision board and a schedule. So
Exactly.
what about those that have a vision board, that have a schedule? What makes you follow the vision board and the schedule, as opposed to seeing it and saying, I'll do that later. I'll do is it just having those two instruments that literally kicks you into gear, or is there something else that goes along with those two tools?
For me, it's kind of how I keep it. For example, if I put my desk right now, I'll show you. I have this thing, right? This is my schedule. You can see it's got, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's got, the times and the days, and it's got certain things that it says in there. it's got colors to it, right?
Right.
So what you see that's green, that's money making activities for me, right? Like that's kind of how I set it up. The other stuff has other meanings, but the green stuff, whenever I look at it and it's that time of day and I'm not doing those activities, in my mind, I already disciplined myself to say, well, might as well just throw money out the door because I'm not making money when I should be making money, right?
Right.
And so that kind of helps me stay, disciplined to that. And then on my screen, you can't see it because it's on my laptop screen, but it's I got my vision board in there, so I literally see it every time I I pull up the computer, which I almost do every day. So anyways, I don't know if that could help somebody out there, but for me it's this right here, just putting meaning behind it, right? Like not just having something, I'll prospect at this time or make the calls at this time. No, I actually, when I see the colors, I say, okay, well, I'm not gonna throw money away, right? I'm gonna focus and I'm gonna get things done. So that's kind of what helps me personally.
Hey, Dan, before I pass it to you, I want to ask one more question on accountability. Kevin, if I may, do you think, Kevin, coming to the country from Peru at the age of 14, 15, not being able to speak English, that learning curve, fighting through the fear, and does that attribute to you not taking anything for granted or taking being able to hold yourself accountable, like you don't need anyone else because of the journey you went through to get to where you are right now? Does it make things more serious for you? Do you attribute your background or your childhood journey to that strength that you have now with discipline?
I would say in a way, yes, because he kind of taught me to, if there is not a way, you find a way, right? So that's kind of the mentality I have. Now, I'm not suggesting at all that you shouldn't have somebody to hold you accountable, because I think that's super important too. We all have, our brains work differently, right? There's some people that seriously need that person to hold them accountable, and that's great. I'm all out for that too. But I think you need to, within yourself, you need to get to know yourself first. And then once you know what works for you, then, you go from there, right? You make that plan. You set that schedule. You set that vision board. You call that buddy that, that's going to call you at 6 a.m. in the morning. Is going to meet you at the gym, or you call that person that's going to tell you, hey, today you got to eat clean, right? So I think, I don't think there is one right way. I think you need to know yourself and learn about yourself, and then know what works for you, and then go from there and make that plan.
It is interesting, Clavon, just listening to Kevin, how many people I've seen that are successful that really do organize their day and stick to it. That's something that I don't know why I haven't done better doing that, but just listening to them makes me want to plan my day better, organize my day better, because recently, like the last 2 months, I kind of feel like I'm spinning my wheels more than ever. Like things are taking longer than they should. And I think that some of it's literally just not being organized enough. And some of the people that I really respect and look up to and listen to their podcasts and do their stuff, they're so organized that they literally only spend this time responding to their emails. Like they will not even open their email box ever except for this time, and they respond to them for an hour or an hour and a half. They don't take calls during these times because they have it blocked that's when they're prospecting, that's when they're doing this, or that's when they're going to the gym or doing. They only listen to their voicemails at this time, and they seem like they get back to people better. Then they get all their stuff done, and at the end of the day, have more time to mess around and do whatever they want to do. Spend it with their family, spend it with their friends, their wife, their whatever it is, their church groups. And then I feel like I'm busy like all day long from the time that I like shut my light off and try and fall asleep. And then I wake up and I feel like I'm already behind. because worldwide business, I'll wake up to maybe 40, 50 messages on WhatsApp from people that are working while I'm sleeping. And I feel like I'm already behind. And then you're just trying to respond and do this and do that and stuff. And I do think that having that organization is definitely way better time management. I feel like I'm a horrible time manager, and I have to, in order to be successful, I have to have employees and some other people that are way better at some of these things than I am. But it just hearing it again makes me think that I've a lot of guys I listen to, they're like, it literally doesn't take any more than 5 to 10 minutes at night to plan out the next day of the things that you need to do and stuff like that. It's not like it takes 2 or 3 hours to plan out a day. Right. And especially if you already have like, this is what I did from the time I started the businesses that I'm in. I did mark what makes money. And for mine, it was building a list, cultivating a list, and then presenting the opportunity to that list. And it was probably similar in real estate or in any type of marketing or sales. Build a list, cultivate the list, present. Those are the things that I looked at was my money-making activities. And so I always had like, okay, I need to add this many people to my list. I need to do these things to cultivate that list. And I need to, basically there's a bridge between cultivating and presenting. And that's just an invite pretty much, or a question. And so I did have those things that like, I know I need to spend like 90% of my time that I'm working on these money-making activities, but I never did a good job of like scheduling it and sticking to that schedule of, okay, from this time to this time. And I honestly think that I should be way further ahead than I am if I just did some of these, like Jeff Olson has a great book, The Slight Edge. If I just did a little bit more of these things that I know I should do and have no explanation of why I don't do, it's just like the things of getting in shape. Why haven't I been able to get in way better shape? I know what to do. I know, okay, move more, eat less, but it's just like these things that we go through, no matter how often we know, people tell us, I guess just being part of human is like not making the correct decisions even when you know. But yeah, it's just weird that I've always kind of had a block of organizing my day and sticking to it. I don't know why, because most of the most successful people do it. But I also think that it's cool that not 100% of the people do it, but I would say if you find most successful people are organized, have their days planned, and hold themselves accountable to it for whatever reason. And I think a lot of people's reason is exactly like Kevin was saying, that vision board. That vision board is the people that are counting on you, the dreams and the hopes and the goals that you have for yourself and for all those that are depending on you. And so, you know, I love that. And it's a great reminder to me getting into the fifth thing and one of my favorite areas.
If I could add one thing, Dan, that could help people out there if they're watching this. The thing with the schedule, something I learned from a mentor of mine in real estate. You know how I have it all, colored and all that. He says, he taught me something very important. He says for a schedule to actually work for you, you have to create an emotional connection to that schedule. So I never thought about it that way, because usually you write it out on your planner or on a paper or whatever, on your calendar, whatever. But then, when he taught me, choose the colors, have a conversation with yourself when you look at it, create a connection, like an emotional thing, right? When it's, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., create that emotional connection to that money-making activity. When it's noon to 1, create that emotional connection to I'm hungry. I'm going to eat and I want to get energy right now, right? when it's like 7, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., create that emotional connection with, oh, I'm going to be with my family. I want to watch a movie with them, or I want to do this, or, it's this time I'm going to go play pool. So I think something that I want to share with everybody here as well is, as you make, this schedule for yourself, have that conversation with yourself and create that emotional connection to that schedule, because that's what's going to help you, every day stick to it. And you're going to be excited about it. You're going to be like, oh, it's time to prospect. Heck yeah. Or it's time to go have some food, or it's time to do this or do that. So anyways, just wanted to add that little thing right there.
No, I love that, Clavon, and it just made me think of something. By putting the things in the schedule and doing that thing, because I was playing golf maybe a couple of weeks ago with some good friends, and on the first hole, one of them said to the other, what's the over under of how long Dan's going to be on his phone in this round of golf? And he says, well, how long is it going to take? And he said, probably 3.5 hours. He says, I'll say 3 hours. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that why are you golfing when your mind is just on work or golf? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I had so many experiences that I regret with my family, young kids, wife, stuff like that, and watching a movie and couldn't even tell you what the movie was about after watching it. Would be like, I watched that last night, but I could watch it again today because I don't know one thing that happened because you weren't watching the movie, or going out to dinner and not even having the conversation. It's some of those things that if you want to be uncommon, be that good dad, be that good husband, be that good boyfriend, do what Kevin's saying, because I truly do regret so much of the time that I'll never get back. Both of my kids are, my daughter's married. They're both out of college, out of the house, stuff like that. I'll never get that time back to, connect and to do those things. When you sit there and are thinking like, well, I need to make money. I need to do this, that kids don't care about that stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you brought that up, Kevin, because I think that it's super important, and it's something that I literally did a pretty bad job at throughout the last 30 years. And now I'm thinking, man, if you're going to do this, then do it. Who wants to be with somebody that's on their phone for 3 straight hours? And who wants to be on the phone with them when you're trying to get them off the phone so that you can go hit your golf shot or something? do one or the other. So I love that advice, and I think it's great advice that I need to implement in my own life. So that's what I love about the podcast is we get just as much out of it as anybody else. So it's kind of like a selfish thing that I want to do, because I also want to learn from all of these people, and then we want to try and throw out a couple things that might help people also at the same time. So.
Super awesome. I feel the same way, Kevin. That brings us to our fifth and final pillar of the Uncommon movement, and this is probably one of my favorite. I know how passionate it is for Dan, because he's got a big heart of gold, and I've watched him help a lot of people. And it shows, it's just this idea, Kevin, of, what is it to be a man? It's well-rounded. You fight for success. You do the things you got to do. You understand that your time is your number one commodity, and you got to grow. You got to develop. You got to put your health first. You got to make money. But at the end of the day, I think you do turn around once you've taken care of yourself and your family, and you want to give back. You want to give back to the community in any way, shape, or form. You want to give back to the youth. You want to get back to where you came from, whatever it may be. And, with the Uncommon movement, we have so many examples of giving back. And I want to attribute Dan's leadership to that. So many things I've watched him do. And my mom always taught me give back, volunteer, give back, do this, do that. But what does giving back mean to you, especially at this stage of your success that you've had, especially in real estate? So, what does that mean to you, Kevin, giving back? And are there some things that you do now in your community or with your family?
Yeah, so let me first attest to an experience I had with Dan. He may remember this. It was maybe a couple years ago. I don't know if you remember then. You got a crew together, and you took food and clothing and cleaning items for the homeless in Salt Lake. I think you invited me to it, and I was grateful to come. And we were giving those out to the people there at the in Salt Lake City. When you may remember that you have bags and everything, all kinds of things, and I thought it was amazing. But anyways, I want to attest to Dan's generosity that way, giving back to the community when he can. So yeah, something that we do personally. We like to look for opportunities, and sometimes those opportunities find you, without you even looking. I'm not going to mention any names, but, not too long ago, very recently, actually, I had somebody reach out to me saying they were in a difficult situation with their family, and, and they could, they could need some help, monetarily speaking. And so, yeah, I got a group of people that I know, and, we put something together, some money together, and we gave it to that person, that family. And I think giving back, sometimes it can take the form of kind of an organized thing that you go out and do, which is amazing. And then other times, it can take the form of when the opportunity comes to you to help somebody out, when not everybody's watching as well. And then you do that, right? So that's kind of what we do in my family. We like to be able to help when we can, and when those people and those opportunities to help come around.
Yeah, and it's something that there's so many different ways. A lot of times people think of giving back as just like money and helping people out with money, but even what you're doing right now, giving an hour plus of your valuable time and information away from your family and stuff like that, that's giving back, and sharing your knowledge and all kinds of things, and service work, and just being nice is giving back. You know what I mean? Just not being a jerk to people, it is somewhat giving back. And so we a friend of mine came up with something the other day that I've really been thinking a lot about, and it's the same words just kind of repeated. And he said, always leave them better. And in turn, you always leave them better. Meaning, if every relationship I have throughout the day, I try and leave them better, make them smile, make them happy, make them feel good, compliment, anything, then I also leave them better. If that makes sense. So a lot of times, just these little things, there's a million ways to give back, and some are financial. There's always going to be somebody in need. So if you have excess money and you give it to a great organization, a church organization that does good with the money, a nonprofit that does good with the money, or you decide yourself to set something up and do it, or taking the time out and just having, interview and explaining the importance of all of these things that you've done tonight, that's giving back, and those things. And what I've noticed is, I truly believe it's the only thing that really is fulfilling. Like I've never had something, everything that you buy for yourself, you buy that dream house, you buy that dream car. After a while, it's just a house. I mean, I have people that I know that literally have like $20 million houses that are as nice as you'll ever see. And they just get so used to it that it's a house. And then sometimes it even becomes a little bit of a hassle because of all the upkeep and all the maintenance and all the expenses. And it's kind of like, man, I talked to a guy that has like a $20 million house, and he's talking about just wanting to downsize and just kind of have the simplicity, because he doesn't need it all. He doesn't even goes months and not even seeing like parts of the house. And so he's just talking about, I'm like, man, why would you move? The house is so awesome. And it is an awesome house. And I know that he likes it, but there's so much maintenance. I mean, they spend literally millions of dollars a year just in the upkeep and maintenance and insurance and taxes and things like that to maintain a $20 million house. Even if you own the house, it's still going to cost you hundreds of thousands or $1 million for the insurance, the taxes, the upkeep, and things like that. And so, but what never gets old is giving back, helping people, seeing those smiles, seeing somebody be so thankful for just that moment, even if it's not that big of a deal, it can change. And one of the reasons we talk about it a lot, because I do also agree that, giving back definitely is not something to brag about or anything like that. It's really just the awareness. Like a lot of the things I do, I saw somebody else do it and I said, man, I want to do that. And if they never talked about it and they never said anything and you never saw it, then a lot of times you wouldn't think about it. So we try and talk about it and, show some of the things on social media and things like that, not to brag or do anything like that, just to kind of see that maybe somebody else will see it and be like, man, I want to do that. And then they kind of, push it forward and stuff like that. So our goal again is pretty basic. We want to help every male 16 and up have the best chance of success, realize who they are as a human being, what they're capable of as a human being, and then give them the opportunity to achieve it. And that's why we talk about health and fitness. And that's why we talk about residual income so that they control their time. And then the next two things, personal development and accountability, is kind of how you achieve those first two things. And then once you have all of this, starting with, even if it's just the knowledge, mentor somebody, give back. And again, we're not talking about just giving back money, because this could be more valuable. It's kind of like that scripture, give somebody this. This is not exactly how it is, but it's kind of like give somebody some food, feed them for a day, teach them how to fish, feed them for life. It's that type of thing. So it's necessary in some cases to feed them for the day because they need something. But we really want to give as much information as we possibly can, just to let every single person know you're capable of anything that you can imagine. Anything that you've seen, you can create. And in 2024, there's no reason for it to take decades and decades in order to go from nothing to more success than you can possibly imagine with the technology that's available, the entire world that's available on social media and with your cell phone. These things never existed literally 20 years ago, let alone 50 years ago or 100 years ago. So the opportunity is amazing. And we just want to let everybody know you're incredible. You're capable of amazing things. And we want to help them realize that and achieve it. So that's really the whole goal here. And I want to end my part tonight, Kevin, and thanking you for your time and the great nuggets that you've left for people. I love the concept of putting these things out on social media. I wish that this existed 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So I could see what my dad or my grandpa or other people were doing, what impact they were trying to have, what their goals were, what their dreams were. And so this is something that, we don't know who will watch this and who will be touched by it tonight, next week, next year, 10 years from now, and even for your kids 20 years from now to pull up this on YouTube and find out a little bit about their dad and his thoughts and what he did and those types of things. Obviously, they probably know a lot of those things, just being raised by you, living with you and stuff like that. But it's a cool thing for people to, put out some information and not just look at it as like, YouTube and social media and who needs that, but use those tools to let the world know who you are, what you're interested in, and as a way to give back. So that's all I got. Clavon, any closing remarks for you?
I'll tell you what, I've been inspired. I want to just, kind of pass it to Kevin really quick. We'll close out with our typical house cleaning. But, Kevin, this was amazing. And I just want to know, did you have any last nuggets, last tips, any words of inspiration, any shout outs that you'd like to give before we close out?
Perhaps I do. Well, first of all, once again, thank you, Dan, for inviting me over. Really appreciate it. I really appreciate what you put together with this movement to help men get better, become more than they can, than they are on their own, once they realize that vision that they have. I mean, truly, like you said, they can do anything they set their minds to. We can do anything we set our minds to. I want to touch on one little thing that Dan mentioned, and I just kind of wanted to take that maybe as a last nugget, I guess. But he mentioned action, right? Like, you could read all the books in the world, but with no action, nothing happens, right? I had a real estate mentor also teach me something, that went kind of along like this. Education without application is worthless. And if you really, if you truly think about that, then that's pretty true. You can know everything about a specific topic or subject or career or whatever, or business, but if you never take action, you're not going to realize what you already learned about that. So I truly believe in that. A lot of people these days talk about the law of attraction. I believe in that, but I believe also in the law of execution. If you just believe in the law of attraction, you don't execute, not much is going to happen. So anyways, I just want to leave, the young people out there, and every man that's watching this, and woman, if there is any woman watching as well, I know this movement is created towards men, but for anybody watching out there, execute, act, on those things that you have planned and prepared for, because that's how you make things happen.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, I think tonight we came, we saw, and we conquered. Kevin, you were awesome. A great story. Ladies and gentlemen, all the UnCommon men around the world, if you have watched this on our social media outlets, please share the broadcast. Be with us next Monday. We will have another phenomenal UnCommon guest to drop some more, lifestyle nuggets that you can follow on your path to success. And hey, if you watch this on YouTube tonight, again, like the broadcast, but subscribe to the family. Be a part of this movement. We're not going to stop. We're on episode 22. Very proud of that. And we'll see you guys on episode 222 very soon. So with that being said, we're going to sign off. We will see you guys next week. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.